"You're useless, Mom. Don't be a burden to us anymore." My daughter's words were sharp. With just one sentence, I realized I had become invisible in my own home. Those words cut me like a knife, and the house where I had lived for 43 years suddenly felt like a strange box. I packed my entire life into 2 suitcases, while the daughter who once snuggled in my arms stood watching with her arms crossed, as cold as a proctor. 3 days later, I was sitting in an old lawyer's office. Before me was not the forged will my daughter had boasted about, but the real one, where my husband, Thomas, had left everything to me. The house, the majority of his assets, and above all, a condition for our daughter. She must treat her mother with respect. It turned out Thomas wasn't just a husband. He was a master chess player who had anticipated this entire game of betrayal. As I looked at his signature, I knew that from that moment on, I was no longer a pawn to be cast aside. I was stepping into the chess game of my life to become the queen. "You have no value anymore. Your life here is over." Those words escaped my daughter's lips like a cold verdict. Not a single tear, not a hint of trembling. Just a firm command uttered by the very child I had raised through sleepless nights and carefully prepared meals. I stood frozen in the living room I had known for 43 years, my trembling hands clutching the wooden box that held our wedding photos. The house that once echoed with laughter was now filled only with the ticking of the clock. In front of me, Bianca Wolf, the child I once called Daddy's little princess, stood with her arms crossed, her eyes as cold as if she were looking at a dismissed employee. Beside her, her husband, Garrett, casually scrolled through his phone as if a mother being kicked out of her home was just another administrative task to be completed. "Bianca, this is my home. Your father's and mine." I tried to keep my voice from breaking. "I don't understand. How could you—" Bianca cut me off, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Not anymore, Mom. Dad left everything to me. I only let you stay out of kindness. But it's time. This house is more suitable for my family. You don't have the strength to climb the stairs, handle maintenance, or live alone in your memories anymore." I looked around. The wall still held the pendulum clock Thomas bought in Vienna, the dark green sofa where we watched movies on rainy nights. It was all now referred to as this house, as if it had never belonged to me. "What are you talking about, Bianca? Your father would never have wanted—" "Enough, Mom," Bianca glared. "You were never good with money. Dad knew I was the capable one. He trusted me. He didn't trust you." Each word, "didn't trust," struck my heart harder than a slap. Garrett interjected, his tone brisk as if closing a deal. "Your suitcases are packed. You need to leave before the afternoon. We have an appointment with the contractors." I felt like I was in a daze. 43 years of marriage, a lifetime of sacrifice, now packed into 2 suitcases. I remembered the nights I reheated dinner for Thomas when he came home late. I remembered carrying Bianca home from school on rainy days. I thought those memories were an unbreakable bond. It turned out they were just old wrapping paper, easily torn apart. Bianca glanced at the gold watch on her wrist, her impatience obvious. "Mom, don't make me late. I've booked you a place at Maple Senior Living. You'll have friends your age there and activities. You'll be fine." Maple Senior Living? I choked. It was a low-budget facility for people with no family to care for them. My daughter, the heir to $33 million according to her, was sending me there as if granting a favor. I wanted to scream. But when I looked into her eyes, I understood. To Bianca, I was just a burden. I no longer had a place in the perfect family picture she was painting. Garrett pulled the suitcases to the door. He didn't look at me, merely saying, "You'll feel more independent, Evelyn. No more bills to worry about, no more house to maintain." No more house? No more family? Nothing at all. As the door slammed shut behind me, I caught the glances of a few neighbors. Some quickly looked away, others whispered. In that moment, I realized I had been silently and coldly erased from my own life. Garrett's car started. I sat in the back, clutching the wooden box. In the rearview mirror, my house, Thomas's house, grew smaller and disappeared. A lump formed in my throat. But at the same time, a thought flashed, so bright I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. Thomas. He was never this cruel. He had shown me the will years ago, explaining it line by line. "I want you to be safe, Evelyn," he'd said. "No matter what happens, you must keep this house." If Thomas had been so careful, why was I being kicked out now? A thick fog in my mind began to clear. I remembered the evenings Thomas spent for hours taking notes, the documents he kept in a separate safe. Something was wrong. Very wrong. That night, in a cheap motel room, I couldn't sleep. But amid the strange noises, another sound echoed in my mind. Thomas's voice. "Evelyn, I've planned for everything. You have to trust me." I opened my old laptop and searched for the name Samuel Price, Thomas's lawyer. My fingers trembled, but my heart was no longer afraid. Maybe Bianca was right. Maybe I was just an old, useless woman. But if there was even a glimmer of hope that Thomas had left me more than today's bitter words, I had to find it, because I had nothing left to lose. And in this chess game, perhaps I was about to learn how to become the queen. The first move on the chessboard began the next morning at Thomas's lawyer's office. Samuel Price stood to greet me, a tall, thin man with silver hair, but his kind eyes remained. "Evelyn Hart," he said, shaking my hand. "My condolences for Thomas. I've been waiting for this appointment, ever since he signed the final update." "You've been waiting?" Samuel invited me to sit, then placed a thick, red-ribboned file on the desk. On the cover were the words, "Final Will and Testament. Thomas Hart." The notary seal was bright red. "Evelyn, I tried to call you several times after the funeral," Samuel said, "but your daughter, Bianca, said you were on vacation to clear your head. I was suspicious. And then I heard from neighbors that you had moved out." I took a deep breath. "I was never on vacation." Samuel nodded and got straight to the point. He opened the file. The final valid will was made 6 months before he passed. Right here, he pointed to the bold text. "Thomas leaves the house and all its contents to Evelyn Hart, and 70% of his total financial assets, estimated at about $23 million, also belong to you." My hand trembled slightly, not because of the number, but because of the truth. "And Bianca?" I asked. Samuel presented another document. "Bianca Wolf is to receive 10 millions held in a trust. The condition for disbursement. It is dependent on treating her mother with respect and ensuring her well-being. Thomas specifically requested this clause." The room fell silent. I remembered the tense dinners, Bianca rolling her eyes at my suggestions, Garrett condescendingly explaining finances. I thought I was being too sensitive. It turned out Thomas had seen it all. He had just chosen to prepare silently. And yet, Bianca had looked me straight in the eye and said, "You get nothing." "There's more," Samuel said, lowering his voice. "On the day of the will reading, Bianca came alone. She said you were too grief-stricken and had authorized her to handle everything. She presented a power of attorney with the signature Evelyn Hart. I looked up sharply. I never signed anything. I know, Samuel said, placing a copy on the table. The handwriting resembled mine, but it lacked the familiar hesitation at the start of each stroke. I kept the original, disbursed no funds, and notified the banks to place the accounts under a risk watch. My blood ran cold. Bianca had forged my signature. Samuel looked at me sincerely. Evelyn, this is fraud. We can file a complaint today, but first, we must protect your assets. He gave me a list of steps. Freeze all accounts, change the locks on the house, request a temporary restraining order from the court. I looked at the list, a clear path forward. My spine straightened. Samuel, I asked, if we do this, can't they twist the story and make me look greedy? He smiled. The truth has its own structure, Evelyn. When you lay it out patiently, it stands firm. Here, we have the real will, the real signature, and evidence of a conspiracy. He took out a steel USB drive. Thomas sent this to me with a letter. If there's a dispute, show this to Evelyn. I put the USB in my purse like a spare heart. As I was leaving, Samuel said, Evelyn, be prepared. They will react. When their cards are frozen, when their game is stopped, they will come for you. My phone rang. It was Bianca. Where are you, Mom? Her voice was taut. There's a problem with the accounts. Did you do something on purpose? Tonight, 7 p.m. at the house, I said calmly. We will talk, and you will listen. I hung up. The sky was clear blue. Some days you get pushed out the door, and some days you come back with the legal key in your hand and change the rules of the game. At 7 p.m., I turned on the living room lights and placed the real will on the table. Underneath the tablecloth, a small audio recorder was already active. The doorbell rang. I opened it. Bianca and Garrett stormed in. Mom, Bianca snapped. What's going on with the accounts? The bank just reported a freeze. What the hell are you doing? I pointed to the table. Sit. Garrett pulled out a stack of papers. Evelyn, you need to sign this agreement. You'll keep the house and a small sum of money in exchange for dropping all legal claims. I raised an eyebrow. How small a sum? $5 million. Enough for you to live comfortably, Garrett replied. I laughed softly. Live comfortably at Maple Senior Living? A flash of panic appeared in Bianca's eyes. Mom, don't overreact. Dad trusted me. I'm just protecting you from trouble. I tapped my finger on the file before me. Your father trusted me far more than you think. He left everything to me. This house, 70% of his assets, and one condition. You only get your money if you treat me with respect. Bianca was stunned. Garrett leaned forward, his voice low. You're lying. I saw the papers. That paper, I interrupted, was a forgery. My signature was faked. You two have committed a much more serious crime than you realize. Bianca blinked rapidly. Mom, you don't understand. You're being manipulated by someone. I placed my hand on the will, my voice as solid as rock. No, daughter. I understand completely. And because I do, I won't let you take anything else from me. I leaned over and gently touched the tablecloth. The recorder's small green light was still blinking. The game is over, children. The rest of the story is safe and doesn't need significant changes, but I will keep it for continuity. When they left, I sat alone. Strangely, I wasn't afraid. I felt more awake than ever. Less than an hour later, Maya Alvarez, an investigator, walked in. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. "Mrs. Hart?" Maya said, extending a hand. "Samuel said you were ready for the real game." She opened her laptop, the screen lighting up with financial diagrams. Garrett used his access at the bank. This wasn't a spontaneous act. They've been planning this for a year. Maya tilted her head. "Do you want me to just gather evidence? Or do you want me to pull a few more strings, expose this whole network?" I remembered Thomas's words. "I want you to be safe." And I remembered Bianca's cold statement. "You're useless, Mom." I looked up, resolute. "We don't just defend. We counterattack. All the way." Maya laughed. "Excellent. From now on, you're no longer a pawn. You're the one making the moves." Just then, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Mrs. Hart, don't go any further. There are secrets about Thomas you aren't ready to know." That message kept me up all night. Early the next morning, Maya returned with a thick file. "Evelyn, I don't want to alarm you," Maya said, "but while tracing the money, I found this." She pointed to a series of transactions under a shell company, Westbridge Consulting. The money flowed through phantom corporations. These payments matched the activities of a major money laundering network. Thomas used his company as a link. The room seemed to spin. "Are you saying Thomas was a criminal?" My voice broke. Maya looked me straight in the eye. "I'm saying he was involved. We don't know his true role yet, but the evidence is clear. And that's why someone texted you. They want to use this secret to silence you." I sat motionless. Maya pushed the file towards me. "You have two choices. Be afraid and let them manipulate you, or turn this very secret into a weapon to turn the tables." I looked down at the will. Tears welled up, but not from despair. I had to keep going, no matter how cruel the truth about the man I loved might be. I closed the file. All right. If Thomas was really playing an underground game, then it's time for me to make his final move. That final move came in a way I never expected. The doorbell rang. A woman in a suit entered. "Special Agent Dana Ruiz, FBI." The air in the room grew thick. Dana sat down. "Mrs. Hart, I believe Maya has shown you your husband's transactions. Yes, they are connected. But before you jump to the worst conclusion, let me finish the story." She pulled out a file stamped top secret. The first page was a series of reports signed by Thomas Hart. I was stunned. "For the past 12 years, Dana said slowly, your husband wasn't just running Westbridge Consulting. He was also an undercover informant for the FBI. He pretended to cooperate with a criminal organization to gather evidence. Many major arrests came from information Thomas secretly provided." My eyes widened. "You mean all that money?" "Yes," Dana nodded. "It was part of the operation. Every dollar is legal." My hand trembled, but this time from relief. Dana leaned towards me. "Thomas risked his life. He knew Bianca couldn't be trusted, so he amended his will to ensure that even after he was gone, you would be protected." Tears fell onto the will. My quiet husband had been fighting a silent war to keep me safe. Dana said, "This inheritance is not only legal, it's a testament to his courage. Now you need to decide. Will you sit back, or will you continue the game Thomas left unfinished?" I wiped my tears. "Agent Ruiz, please tell me the next move." Dana smiled. "We call it Operation Justice, and you, Evelyn, will be the main character." The first act of Operation Justice took place in my living room. At 8 p.m., Bianca and Garrett walked in. "Hello, Mom," Bianca said with false sweetness. We can resolve this peacefully. I pointed to the chairs. Sit. Talk. Garrett presented a family agreement. Evelyn, you keep the house and $5 million clean dollars. In return, you drop the lawsuit. I leaned back and smiled. $5 million in exchange for $33 million in my honor? How generous. Bianca's face tightened. Mom, stop being stubborn. I cut her off. No, you are stealing and committing forgery, and it's all on this audio recorder. Garrett shot up, his face pale. Recorder? I gently touched the edge of the tablecloth, revealing the blinking green light. At the same time, the back door opened. Agent Dana Ruiz and 2 FBI agents walked in, handcuffs gleaming. Bianca Wolf, Garrett Cole. Dana read clearly. You are under arrest for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit theft. Bianca looked at me, tears streaming. Mom, you can't do this to your own daughter, I replied, my voice low but firm. You did it to your mother. The only difference is, I chose the law. The sound of handcuffs clicked shut. The board was officially flipped. That night, the house I was kicked out of became a legal crime scene. At FBI headquarters, Bianca quickly crumbled under the undeniable evidence. Garrett tried to maintain his professional demeanor, but the recording of his own voice sealed his fate. The next morning, Dana informed me. They've broken Evelyn. Now you decide. Do you want a quick settlement or a public trial? I looked up, my voice steady. I want it to be public. I want everyone to know that there are those who would disrespect a mother and assume she would never fight back. I will show them they were wrong. Dana smiled. Then, Mrs. Hart, this game is yours to win. 3 days later, Cassandra Cole, Garrett's mother, appeared, elegant but oppressive. Evelyn Hart, let's talk like women who understand the game. Taking this to court benefits no one. Or it doesn't benefit your family, I replied calmly. Cassandra scoffed. Don't be naive. The media will get involved. Your reputation will be ruined. What do you want? Simple. We offer a generous compensation, say $5 million. You drop the lawsuit. I laughed. $5 million to buy my silence? How cheap? Cassandra's eyes narrowed. You don't understand how the upper class plays. Accept the deal before you find yourself on the street again. I stood up. Madam, the difference between us is that I've learned how to stand tall when everything collapses. You only know how to use money and threats. That doesn't work anymore. Not on me. Her eyes darkened. You will regret this. 3 days later, the tabloids exploded with sensational headlines. Reporters swarmed my gate. Maya pulled the curtains shut. Cassandra has made her move. They want to turn your words into a joke. I remembered Thomas's advice. When they try to push you aside, that's when you must step directly into the light. That evening, I called Dana. I want to tell the story in my own voice. The next night, I sat in front of the cameras. The red light came on. Hello? I am Evelyn Hart. They wanted me to be silent. But tonight, I will tell the truth. For over 12 years, my husband, Thomas, risked his life working for the FBI. He was not a criminal. He was a silent hero. I played the video Thomas had left. The audience held its breath. I turned back to the camera. My daughter and her husband tried to take everything. But I am no longer afraid. I have lived my whole life in someone else's shadow. Now I step into the light to tell the world. I will not be silenced. Applause erupted. Public opinion had shifted. The final move took place in the courtroom. I walked in, no longer the trembling widow, but the plaintiff. Bianca looked haggard, Garrett, anxious. On the stand, I recounted everything. The audio recording was played. In the end, the judge struck the gavel. The court finds Bianca Wolf and Garrett Cole guilty of fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. The sentence? 18 months in federal prison and civil restitution. All assets of Mr. Thomas Hart, according to the legal will, belong to Mrs. Evelyn Hart. The courtroom erupted. Justice had finally been served. As she was led away, Bianca turned, trembling, and asked, "Mom, can you forgive me?" I looked at her, my heart both aching and resolute. You must learn to forgive yourself first. As for me, I've learned to live without waiting for an apology. The courtroom doors closed. The game was over. I had won. A reporter shouted as I walked outside, "Mrs. Hart, what message do you have for others experiencing betrayal within their own families?" I stepped into the light, ready with an answer that would touch millions of hearts. Today, the morning is different. I stand in my kitchen, sunlight flooding the house. This is my house, protected by the truth I fought to reclaim. Thomas's desk is now where I run a charitable foundation to protect abused seniors. And if you, the person reading this story, have ever been betrayed, looked down upon, or pushed out of your own life, remember this: your worth is not defined by how others treat you, but by how you rise after they try to push you down. The truth can be cruel, but it is the most powerful weapon. Resilience is often tear-stained, but it builds dignity. And when all seems lost, believe that one thing remains that no one can take away: the right to be the author of your own story. I am Evelyn Hart. This was my journey. And my final message is this: never let anyone else define your worth. Write the final chapter yourself,